Hello everybody, and welcome back to what is hopefully going to be an ongoing series on making weapons for Garry's Mod. In the previous video, we went over grabbing your text editor, the tool that we're going to be using to write your code for the game, and in this video we are going to show how to use that. We're going to put it to use, and we're going to make a simple LUA file, and we're going to run it in the game and see how it affects the game. So, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to access Garry's Mod's directory. The fastest and easiest way to do this is to go to your Steam library, right-click on Garry's Mod, go to Properties, Installed Files, and Browse. This will open up a folder, which is your Garry's Mod game directory. Once you're in here, you're going to want to enter your second Garry's Mod folder, the one that's all lowercase, and this will show all of your folders that have stuff like your add-ons, which we'll be spending a lot of time in there, your add-ons, your dupes, your maps, your materials, and what we want, your LUA folder. Inside of here, there's a couple of files you can make, including auto runs, which are run every time the game loads, and stuff like that. Weapons, entities. But for now, we're going to make just a regular LUA file inside of your Gmod LUA folder. So to do that, we're going to right-click, we're going to do new text document, and we're going to call it My First LUA File. And by the way, see how it says My First LUA File.txt? If this extension is not visible to you, if you can't see that it's .text, go to View at the top of your folder explorer, and then under Show Hide, make sure to check file name extensions. Make sure that's checked. See how when I uncheck it, they go away and they come back? This will basically allow you to see what type of file everything is, and by extension, it'll allow you to change it. So once you've made your My First LUA File.txt, you're going to right-click it, rename, delete the .txt, and replace it with .lua. It's going to warn you that it's going to become unstable. Say yes, you want to change it, and then open it up with Sublime. Now that we're in Sublime, this is our canvas for writing programs and code and making things for Garry's Mod. But the question is, what do we want to make? Well, many tutorials, the very first thing that you can write is the Hello World code, where you run it in-game and it says Hello World, which looks something like this. Hello World. But let's do something a little more complicated. Well, not complicated, but let's do something a little more practical. Which, by the way, I forgot to show you the most important tool of them all, perhaps. The Garry's Mod Wiki. This is basically your lifeline for programming. Any function, any hook, anything that is in Garry's Mod right now is going to be in here. This will show you how every single function and hook, how everything works. So if you ever want to know how to, let's say in this instance, set the health of the player, it's here. So let's type in the word health in the search bar, and that gives us a couple of options. We can get the health of something, we can set the health of something, or we can get the max health and set the max health of something. As you can see, these four functions are underneath a class called entity, meaning these are meant to affect entities. Entities that these can affect are players, NPCs, even props. Breakable props, that is. Well, actually, every prop has health, but the ones that are unbreakable just have 0 health and are not programmed to take damage. Anyway, we want to set the player's health. So, let's go to Set Health. Description. Sets the health of the entity. Arguments. So this is the function right here. This tells you what you have to put, what you have to affect it with, and anything inside of here tells you the argument. Any function that has anything inside the parentheses, it needs an argument, meaning, for example, set the health. The health of, to what? What are we setting the health to? If you don't put an argument in, the game's going to yell at you. And if you don't give it an entity to set the health of, it'll yell at you too, like, okay, what am I setting the health of? So, what we're going to do is we're going to follow this example here. Sets the entity's health to their maximum health. We're going to do 90% of this, except we're going to change the very end. So we're going to do entity, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. By the way, when you're in Sublime and you're in your Gmod Lua, which to make sure that you're in Gmod Lua mode, go to View, Syntax, Gmod Lua, which we did that in the first video. So we're going to type entity. When you type one parenthesis, it's going to automatically close it for you, which is nice because we need it closed. We're going to type entity 1 colon. Every time you want to run a function on something, every time you want to run a method that is on something, you have to start it with a colon. And we're going to say set health. See how it's automatically suggesting? We're going to do set health and then see how it's autofilling number, new health. It has to be a number. We're going to say set health 200. Set the health of the entity, of entity 1, which in any single player game is you. It will always be you, the player. So set the health of the player to 200. Save. A quick tip is if you don't want to keep hitting file save, you can just press Control S at the same time. And Sublime has this little thing where, see how that X turned into a dot? That means that you have unsaved changes. So whenever you're programming, see how it's turning into a dot when I added and removed spaces and lines? That dot basically means that you have unsaved work. So if you want this to work in game, you have to make sure that you save it. So now that we have our file, we need to load it in the game. So launch a Garry's Mod game, single player. You can go on any map you want, obviously. And go to your console. Now by default, the console key is the tilde button, or the squiggly line, which is underneath the escape key on US keyboards. But if for any reason you don't have that button, or it doesn't work, go to your escape menu, Options, Keyboard, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's the very last option, Toggle Developer Console, and set that to a key that you can use, that you will use commonly, and then hit the button. This is your game console. This is basically how the game communicates with you. Most coding programs have a console that will output whatever the heck you tell it to output, errors and stuff like that. This is how Garry's Mod does it. So, how do we run our Lua file that we made? We're going to do something called open script. So we're going to type Lua underscore open script. See how it's auto-completing open script. And then what was the name of that Lua file we made? myfirstluafile.lua. So we're going to do Lua open script, see how it's auto-completing? myfirstluafile.lua, and then hit enter. Running script myfirstluafile.lua. And we check in the game, look, my health has gone up to 200. And just to show that it works, I'm going to damage myself. I'm going to run the script again. And my health is now back to 200. Now, this can be anything. It doesn't have to just be functions that affect the player or functions that set your health. It can be anything. Anything you put in here when you run the file will occur. So if I wanted to make a function that spawned a zombie, I would just make the function, and then when I run it, it would spawn a zombie right in front of me if I told it to. It can make a zombie on top of that building over there if I told it to, or it can make a zombie inside of me and probably telefrag me and make me explode if I wanted it to do that too. But that's just how to make basic files that run when you start them. In the next episode, we're going to get into the real meat and potatoes, and we're going to get into making your first weapon. And then from there, we're going to be adding on to your weapon and adding and adding and adding until we make something that's a real work of art. And like I said before in my previous video, if I did anything wrong, if you got stuck somewhere or just something just didn't line up, leave a comment leave a comment down below, and I will address it and see if I can help you get you back on the right track. Also, if you have suggestions of what you want me to go over next when it comes to weapons, if I know it, I can make a video on it. I don't know too much. That's why these videos, I say they're from a noob to another noob. I don't know too much about this, but what I do know I will share with you guys. Anyway, until next time,